let's jump in to Klaxoon. Hold on. Let's jump into Klaxoon. Let's see if I can get that. Oh, hello. Okay, put a Klaxoon board up so that you can click on the link. Hopefully that takes you to Klaxoon. Let me know when you're in. It's a slightly new Klaxoon board, as all the other Klaxoon boards I had got cancelled. So let me know when you're in, or if you have any problems.
I'm in.
Good.
I can't see the chats.
Again.
Okay.
You got it?
Okay.
Good. You managed it, Sarah? Are you in?
Okay.
Excellent. Very good. First question. If you think about, I don't know, it can be any famous people, it can be people in political life, it can be people in business life. Who would you give examples of what you would say have great executive presence? Go for it. Quick 90 seconds. See if you can put down 5 or 6 names of people you would hold up as examples of great executive presence.
What is how does executive differ from like authority or?
Excellent. We'll jump into that once you've put some names down. That's exactly a really good question.
Meaning of the word the same, or
It's
yeah.
not quite the same, exactly. So it's a little bit different. There's acting with confidence. It's a certain level along the spectrum of confidence. Executive presence is something slightly different. It's the ability to hold command of an audience. Executive presence. Usually in the business context. So, for example, I don't know if you watch any of the kind of the TED talks, those kind of things. You know, the people that often turn up to these TED talks are often scientists, business people, passionate people with NGOs, these kind of people, right? They're not often politicians. They're not often actors. They're everyday working people. But when they stand up on that stage, they're able to stand there with confidence, deliver their message really well, and command effectively the audience's attention. So that's a kind of a brief summary of executive presence. But there are many different views on that. That's just a starting point, and we'll dive into a little bit around then. How do you get and build executive presence?
So I'm just a little bit lost on the board. Where do we need to write?
If you scan out a little bit, you should be able to find a big word, a big red writing that says examples of great executive presence. And underneath it is a box. Go for it. So yeah, see 5 or 6 people you would say have great executive presence. Opera, that's a really good one. It's a good example.
When you enter the notes, they come really small, so you have to
make them big. Yeah. Oh god, they are small, aren't they? I see what you mean. The scaling on the vaccine's gone very funny, isn't it? Good, some good ones. Maybe a couple more. Okay, let's have a look then at what we've got. So there's some really good ones, of course. We've got opera. Now, see, opera is an interesting one because she's not an actress, right? She's not an actress. She is, though, a trained television host, but she's not an actress. So that's an interesting one that stands out. Obama, of course, is a politician. We'll come back to Obama in a second. Same as Nelson Mandela, politician. You've got Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. Now that will contrast those two people in just a second because it's a very interesting contrast. Jordan Peterson. I have to admit, I don't know who Jordan Peterson is. Who's Jordan Peterson?
It's the really rude debate guy. He's a psychologist. Yeah, I mean, he has a lot of YouTube videos and does like a lot of the debates live. But debates. He's a psychologist, yeah, and
excellent. I'll look him up. Actually, I'll look him up. I'll go and see what he's like. Let's take Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. So Steve Jobs, very extroverted, very loud. Bill Gates, though, highly introverted, almost the opposite kind of basic character, right? What would you say for Steve Jobs and Bill Gates are the behaviors, the impressions that make them stand out? What would you say are just one or two things that really make them stand out among the crowd of many other CEOs? Apart from the fact that
they changed the world, I would say. They were very innovative and they managed to change the world.
Yeah, the vision, passion, and like the success behind them.
Absolutely. Vision, passion, success. These post-it notes are crazy, aren't they, today? Not doing well. Absolutely. So I think that's good to think about. It doesn't really matter if you're extroverted or introverted when it comes to executive presence. It's far more about, can you clearly articulate what you want to achieve? Do you do it with a level of passion? And level of passion, again, doesn't have to be a big extroverted, jumping around kind of level of passion like Steve Jobs. It can also be a very downplayed level of passion, and that commitment just comes through. And of course, a level of success always helps with confidence, right? Absolutely. What about Oprah and Obama? Let's compare those two. What would you say are a few things that stand out about Oprah and Obama?
The confidence. But also.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just thinking out loud.
No, I mean in a country where racism prevails, they are, let's say, people of color that really manage to outstand and to push this. I think break the stereotype of the white, right? He was the first black president, and she is a very recognizable person. So I do think they are. I mean, unfortunately, I know it sounds a little bit bad, but it is affecting the States, the color, right?
Absolutely.
They were very outstanding in this field. I think they broke the pattern, and they are.
Absolutely. I think, you know, they stand out. I'll build on what you've said. I think it's also because they try and have a high moral level. You know, their beliefs are very high, if you know what I mean. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And it kind of makes them trustworthy, like you believe. I mean, you would believe them, like when they're speaking. I don't know what quality is that. Maybe even more than you would believe Steve Jobs or somebody that deals with technology and things. Maybe because of those moral values that they are pushing forward.
Absolutely trustworthy, definitely trustworthy. And I think, you know, that also resonates for people like Nelson Mandela as well, right? You trust their intent. Now, so it's an interesting, so trustworthiness, we'll dive into that in a little bit, is people can still not agree with you, but still believe that you're trustworthy. I think there's a secret behind here, which is sharing your intent. So as long as you're clear and authentic with your intent, that will build a level of trust. People might not agree with your intent, but because you've made your intent visible and open, people will trust you, even if they don't agree with what you're saying. Jordan Peterson, give me a little bit on Jordan Peterson. What would you say are some of the behaviors and things he does that makes him stand out?
Really, really strong opinions that he can argument in every situation and defend against anybody who challenges them.
Very good. And again, you might not agree with his opinions, but because he's open and clear about his opinions and has arguments to back them up, there's a level of trustworthiness, right? Because you know where you stand with his opinions, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Very good, very good. So let's take some of these, and actually, I have a story about opera, a very true story. About 6 years ago, opera came for Tina Turner's 70th birthday in Zurich, something like that. And she walked into a very famous bag shop that sells ridiculously expensive bags in Zurich. And she walked in, she looked around, she saw a very nice bag that she liked. And she asked the assistant, the shop assistant, please, I'd like to buy that bag, please. And the assistant went, no, madam, you can't have that bag. And Opera went, no, I think I can buy that bag. I'd like that bag, please. Says, no, madam, that bag was specially made for Jennifer Aniston. Unfortunately, in the end, she didn't want it. I'm afraid that you can't buy it. And Opera walked out of the shop, immediately went to the press and said, you know, I've just been refused because they believe I don't have enough money to buy a bag in the shop. Hit the headlines completely, which, you know, shows that kind of racist stereotype. It was a shocking revelation. Of course, the shop assistant lost her job after that one, but it was all over the newspapers, right? The richest woman on the world got refused to buy a bag. Crazy. It was a bad day for Switzerland, that was.
Yeah, I think I even heard her talking about it somewhere, and it's amazing. She was on an interview or something. Now, when you, yeah.
Oh yeah. She let it know. She let the world know what happened. That's for sure. It's a shame. Anyway, so there are different ways to build up executive presence. Confidence is a big one. I can't teach confidence in the few minutes that we have here, but there are some tricks to building greater confidence, especially when you stand in front of a lot of other people, or you go to a big meeting, or you're meeting with senior executives and that kind of thing. There are a few simple tricks you can learn very quickly to help with that. Obama. So I'm going to pick on Obama for a moment. So I've studied Obama and I've studied a few other English politicians in terms of their presentation skills. And what's really fun to see sometime, if you can find old videos of people like Obama and see how just bad they were at presenting when they started their kind of political career. And I mean, really bad. Obama, on some of his first campaign presentations, was awful. I mean, really bad. He's learned how to do that. He's learned how to stand on the stage. He's learned how to stand in front of a television. He's learned how to deal with difficult questions. It's a learned skill. It's genuinely not a skill people are naturally born with. You might, through school and university, kind of have more experience of things like that, and so you get better. But it is genuinely a learned skill. Same for opera as well. You know, she's learned her craft over the years, right, of doing that kind of work. So executive presence, you can learn. It is a skill that you can learn, absolutely. And some of those skills are actually very basic. Vision, passion, confidence, openness, trustworthiness. These are the simple factors that build great levels of executive presence. Oh, and another thing that works really well on executive presence, which is body language as well. Because back to, I think we did a little piece on virtual communications, and we talked about, 70% of communication is body language. And you can give out bad signals with your body language, or you can give out very positive, friendly signals with your body language. So body language is a big piece of it here, which, if we ever get the opportunity to do a training in person, we can really do some good work with body language, posture, how you stand in front of cameras and things like that. You've all grown up with cameras, though, so I know it's far easier for you than some of the older executives that I work with, who are very camera shy and are not at all comfortable standing in front of a camera. But there's lots of little tricks. So let me just jump in to, oh, I think here comes Jamie. See if I can pull him in. Oh, he's in. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, everyone. Sorry about the delay.
No, it's good that you join us just in time. Actually, we were just about to jump into some of the practical things you can do to increase your executive presence. Confidence, something you don't have a problem with at all, Jamie. Confidence in terms of things like that. But we just looked at a few people like Oprah, Obama, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Jordan Peterson, Nelson Mandela. What are the factors that give them a high level of executive presence? Confidence, outstanding, breaking the stereotype, moral level, trustworthy, vision, passion, success, clear and open arguments, these kind of things. So that's where we've got to, and we were just about to jump into some of the theory then. So hopefully you can see the presentation. Very good. Okay, so the basic factors of really, apart from confidence, which takes time to build up, how can people like Obama and Oprah is very good at the first one here. Oprah is amazing at being open. She will, during her interviews, especially during her interviews with more famous people, she will always share her own personal experiences as well. If there's an experience that somebody's giving, she will always try and relate to that experience. So being open, and that's not easy to do, because we all have an element of our personal lives that we don't tend to like to share, especially those things that people might think are more negative. So, for example, I grew up with ADHD, but I learned how to use ADHD for my benefit, actually, because I was hyperactive and was thinking about 20 different things at the same time. I realized I could put my hyperactive energy into working faster, better, harder than anybody else. And the fact that I could think about multiple different things at the same time, I could use that to solve very complex problems. So I actually used my ADHD to my advantage. But 10 years ago, if I told somebody that I had ADHD, they would go like, "Oh my God, you've got a disease or something like that." Right now, people understand ADHD far better. But 30 years ago, it was a completely misunderstood condition, not a condition, superpower. So being open is a really good way to start to build a level of executive presence, and being comfortable to be far more open. Thoughts, reactions?
Yeah, it's a fine line between being open and like oversharing.
Yeah.
Because oversharing can also make you feel too vulnerable or too emotional. But you need to open up to people in order to feel trustworthy, and so yeah.
And that's
some people can't overshare, which doesn't make them very
the important word at the end of that, which is trustworthy. And you're right. I mean, we're talking in the business context here, so you don't want to be open to the point where it makes people feel uncomfortable, right? Because you can be that open. So you're right, you do have to judge the level of openness. But I think very quickly in the business context, you can understand what the boundaries are in that business context. And within those boundaries then, especially around sharing lessons learned. I was working with an executive a couple of months ago, and he's been in business for 40 years. And I was trying to get him in a town hall to really share some lessons learned where his career had not gone well. He just flatly refused to share any lessons learned. But this then puts up so much of a barrier that, if you want to build a level of trust, because one of the factors of trustworthiness is also a level of engagement and intimacy. If there's just a barrier there, nobody will ever get to the point where they can genuinely trust you, because you never share anything. Right? So yeah, absolutely, makes a lot of sense. Connect. Let's move on to the next one. Connect. It can be linked very much to openness, but connection is slightly different. So this is really engaging. This also comes back to a little bit knowing your audience. So understanding the audience, what do they want to hear? What do you want them to hear? What do you want to get them to do? Connect to experiences that the audience might have. So here's a trick. For any presentation that you give, when you open the presentation, open with something that the audience can relate to. So often a trick that's used to prepare TED speakers, or a trick that's used to prepare conference speakers, and I've run a lot of conferences in the past, is to get them to simply share an experience of how they arrived at the conference. For example, traveling through London, traffic was terrible today. I thought I wasn't going to make it. but here I am. That just gives people a connection. It's a simple trick to connect to people. Thoughts on connection? That was super quick.
Yeah, I agree. Like, for example, yesterday I was interviewing someone in Ghana, and like just from his CV, I could see we had a lot of things in common, and we just automatically connected, which just made the conversation flow so much better and just made everything so much easier.
Excellent. Perfect example, because, I mean, convert that now into a presentation, a situation. If you know just a couple of things about your audience, even just one or two people, and you know maybe they like, I don't know, a sport, or they like good food or something like that, start with an opening couple of sentences that connect to those people, and that will always help. Jamie will know this person, maybe the rest of you won't. There's an old prime minister called Tony Blair. And I've also studied his presentation style from the time that he started. And again, he was terrible when he started, to the time when he finished. And I studied his final speech when he finally left political life. And he used connection in his final speech super well. He had a room full of about 2,000 people, all part of his party, friends, all that kind of stuff. And he opened with, "Remember the day, Bob, when we did X." Went to completely to the opposite side of the room. "Remember the day, Gazine, when we did this." And then went down right to the middle at the back of the room. "Remember, Tony, when we did this." And that was his opening. He was being super open because he was already sharing some of those tough times, and he was immediately connecting with the audience. Excellent executive presence skills, but he learned that, absolutely learned it out of the textbook.
I don't know if I always thought like maybe he got someone to write it for him by that point, because when I saw him originally, like you said, he was awful. And I was just thinking like the more and more time he had, the more time he had to just get someone to write his speeches for him. I didn't know if it was him or someone writing it for him.
I know the woman that wrote his speeches. I worked with her at IBM, and I learned a lot of this off her. She's an amazing woman. And yes, of course, people like that, especially senior politicians, they will have speech writers. There's still an art, though, in delivery. And if you're a good politician, or someone like Opera, for example, you will participate in the speech writing process, because the more it's your own personal voice, the better the speech will be. And that comes to the passionate bit that comes in number 3. I've also seen, executives, the business executives, fall into the trap of getting somebody to write their speech for them at a town hall or something like that, not at all being engaged in the process that writes that speech. And you can tell immediately, but it's not their words, because it's not the way that they speak anyway. And it's not authentic, because, it's somebody else that's written the words, right? And that comes to point number 3. If understanding your feelings to the topic that you're delivering really helps when it comes to building executive presence. Because if you're not connected to the topic, and you really don't feel anything about it, a boring topic, people spot that a million miles away. If you're bored, the audience will immediately pick up on that. If you can find what your feeling towards that topic is, and just dial it up 1 or 2 on the volume or the passion level, dial it up a little bit on the emotion level, you can significantly improve the levels of executive presence. Steve Jobs was fantastic at that, because, very technical expert. He learnt over time to find the bit that was exciting about a product and the way that he felt. And then when he presented it, he would dial that excitement up on that particular topic. Super good on building passion. Not as easy as to do as to say it, but it is a skill that you can very clearly learn. First of all, think about the topic you're presenting, think about what you feel about it, and then over time, learn to dial it up just a little bit, and it will already have a big impact. Another good person to watch who has explained in the past how this works is The Rock. For when he learnt wrestling, he learnt how to take his own personality and just dial it up 100, to be in front of the cameras whilst he was wrestling. So you can do it. You can learn to share your feelings and passion, make it come across even more powerful. Thoughts? Any other people that I think you mentioned, is it Jason Peterson? But comes across very very passionate. Thoughts?
I think maybe there's a guy who's very, I think, passionate but doesn't show it, but somehow still a lot of people respect him, as Elon Musk. I don't know, I feel like he's very passionate about what he does, but he's a terrible communicator, but somehow still, just from his passion, gets everyone kind of behind him.
It's that, yeah, absolutely. It's the same with Bill Gates, right? He's not the jumpy around, shouty kind of person. That deep belief and quiet passion can be as equally as effective because people will see it. Exactly with Elon Musk, right? He's quietly passionate. He doesn't run around and shout and scream. But you can see really that he's deeply committed to what he's doing and what he's talking about, right? That comes across. Absolutely.
Yeah, even though he's such an awkward person. Bill Gates, he's quietly passionate, but I wouldn't say he's awkward. But Elon Musk is just next level awkward in front of the camera. But still, everyone likes him. Well, not everyone, but most people like him, respect him, and he gets everyone behind him just from his passion alone.
Absolutely. And Bill Gates has learned it as well. When he was when he was really in the Microsoft world and he was doing that, he was awkward. Oh, terrible. He was really the IT geek, and he now is very happy to be the IT geek. But when he started, he was not at all comfortable being in front of the cameras. Again, he's learned that over his time. So you can learn how to do that. And all of these things, the openness, the connection, and the be passionate, that's very personal, right? It has to be authentic. It is all about understanding yourself and how you come across. And if you try and pretend to be somebody else, it doesn't work. People see that as well immediately. Step by step can be learned though.
I have actually I don't know, maybe an opposite problem. Sometimes I get too passionate, which is problematic for multiple reasons. Sometimes I get too excited about an idea and push it, and then because I'm really passionate about it, people listen, even though it's a terrible idea. And then also I get, I don't know, I'm quite emotional, I guess. Just for example, this morning, I almost got in really big trouble. So I was in the gym. I went to the gym early in the morning, and my dad called me, and I just had I was just speaking to him for about 2 minutes, and then some guy started having a go at me for being on the phone in the gym. Because Swiss don't like people talking in public spaces. And then he called me, he was like, I guess the best translation is fucking foreigners always so stupid. And I got really angry and almost got myself in really big trouble. Whereas I guess in that case you should just sort of leave it and be I don't know. But I just got really angry and started in a really big argument with him because of, I don't know, I just don't like Swiss are always that about foreign people. It just, I don't know. I feel you know what I mean? Sometimes you have to take the passion out of the situation, because I feel otherwise I get myself in trouble. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. True story. So when I started in Switzerland, I was doing a lot of training at that time. And you know me by now, right? I get very excited as well. And I know we've only done a lot virtually, but in a room, I get even more excited and loud, right? And that's how I've been training, since I started training 30 odd years ago. So I turn up in Switzerland and I give it my welcome to the training. It's going to be fantastic. I literally had people in the room move backwards away from me. Literally. And, I had to learn to dial it down a little bit for the audience, right? But then after a couple of years, I was going, look, this isn't me. You know, I've dialed it down too much. So actually, I just went back to being exactly the way that I used to be. A little bit more, you know, conscious of, say, maybe some of the things I say, or, you know, the way that I come across. But I still show just the level of passion that I've always, that I used to do. But for a couple of years, I kind of turned it down. And then after a couple of years, and why am I pretending to be somebody I'm not? I just went back to doing what I was doing. So I think the key around emotion is in the business context. You know, we're talking about executive presence. So you do have to be mindful of the business context. However, if you are able to show your passion in any way that is natural to you, in the way that expressing it, you will stand out amongst the crowd far, far more than the rest of those that would present and things like that. The last quick topic is listen, but that's relatively, you know, straightforward. But genuinely listening, the active kind of listening that asks for clarification, that kind of things. Reading, also reading people's body language is listening as well. Watching your audience, seeing how they're reacting to you know, the way you're presenting, what you're presenting, and then adjusting your focus during a presentation because you're listening to the audience. Even sometimes, you know, I've really said, I can see, you know, the energy in the room has gone down now, let's take a break. Or I see the energy has gone down now, let me, you know, change it up a gear and come back. So you can also adapt to the audience as well. So that was a little piece around the factors of executive presence: open, connect, passion, listen, and adapt goes within that listen. So those are the core skills. All of those core skills can be learned, absolutely. And even now, I'm constantly working on things like connection is one of my weaker areas. I'm constantly working on connection at the moment as well. You can continue to work on it through life.
I think you did a good job there. You said you're working on connection. Like when you just said your story about the Swiss people when you came to Switzerland, that immediately connected with me. It was like I did the same thing when I moved to Switzerland. Just had to like tone down me because of how the Swiss react to it.
Absolutely, no, that's good. Well, thank you for the feedback. That helps me learn better how I should do these things. No, always can always improve. And even now, you know, if you look at, we've set some examples of like Obama and people like that. They have learned over time, so they continue to get better and better and better. And even now with, you know, Obama's books and these kind of things, again, they've got better and better and better during those kind of presentations. And you know, you can always learn more. Storytelling, very quickly. We've touched on storytelling before. We just gave the kind of basic entry-level storytelling approach with start, middle, and end. It's pretty basic. A more advanced storytelling structure that you can use now is the STAR model, which is the common model that's used for all kind of executive presentations. Politicians use it very effectively. You know, the lady I was worked at IBM with that was writing Tony Blair's speeches used this model often in constructing speeches, etc., things like that. Situation, of course, describe the problem. This is especially good, of course, for politicians, because that's where you should always start. What's the problem? What needs to be accomplished? What is the task? You know, where do you need to get to? What's the destination? Within that, though, coming back to these executive presence things, be open. You know, what's the concerns? What's the topic that's going to connect the most with the audience? What do you feel passionate about within that? So if you take that task section and then apply the open, connection and passionate piece, that's where it will come through nicely in your presentation. Then actions, of course, what did you do to reach the goal and overcome the challenge, and then results. And here, it's super powerful if you have some things that did not go well, because this comes back to, the connection piece, because everybody has had experience of things going wrong, right? So if you have a few things that have gone wrong or not quite worked as well as you wanted to, sharing that in the results section significantly increases your level of authenticity and openness, rather than just going straight to the positive results. You can see that in the current situation. If you say, well, we tried these things on COVID, they didn't work. However, this is the thing that's working, right? You can say that very, very quickly. So I think this is a model you can take away. You can apply it to any situation that you're working on, create a story around it. Any project that you're working on, any decision that you're trying to get made, anything, structuring it in situation, task, action, and results will, again, significantly improve how people are perceiving your presence in the room, because you have a clear structure in how you're communicating. Makes sense? Take a quick pause there. How are we doing for time? A few more minutes left. Helpful? Anything else around storytelling?
Yeah, I don't know. I think for storytelling, it's one that they always told us as well when we were in uni, when we were doing interviews. And I think the key for it was to try and make it not sound contrived, so to make it, to hit all the key points like STAR, but without making it sound like you've written a book kind of thing, that you're just regurgitating a script, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Of course. Yeah, if you sound like you're reading from a script, again, people are super sensitive to these things. We're very good animals at detecting hints and things like that. And so there is a bit of a challenge where if you are not being authentic, if you're not really listening, if you're bored, if you're not really bought into a topic, if you're reading from a script, people can tell that really easily, surprisingly easily, actually. And sometimes people pick it up just as a feeling or a hint. Sometimes it'll be super clear and they go, okay, this guy's just reading from a script. Or, this person's just not at all bought into what he's presenting, right? People can pick that up very easily. On the script, let's come to a script. So scripts are really helpful. And even today, for the little videos, I will write a script. But I don't want to look like I'm reading a script, right? And I don't want to sound like I'm reading a script. So the easiest way to either take a model like STAR, or if you want to prepare a script for a big presentation, which is a good thing, by the way, always prepare a script, is then to practice. Practice, 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 practice. Even today, I still practice a minimum of 7 times for any super major presentation that I have to give, whether it's to the executive board or something like that. I will always practice it 7 times. That might be in different forms. Writing a script is one practice, because you're really thinking through the words. Converting the script then into a few bullet points, that's a second practice, because now I've just got a set of bullet points. Reading the bullet points just out loud to see if they make sense and flow well, that's practice number 3. And then, I might just kind of practice the speech, but with the bullet points right in front of me. Practice number 4. I might do that twice just to get it in my head. And then practice kind of 6 or 7. I try and practice it timed without the bullet points in front of me. So still practice 7 times before any major presentation. What that does is make me stand out above everybody else that's presenting. Because no one else, very rarely in business do you get people that practice their presentations. Very rarely, right? So when I turn up and give a presentation, I can be assured that it will absolutely stand out amongst all of the other presenters. That's helped me, genuinely helped me in my career, absolutely. Just by the simple act of preparing well and practicing. A little bit on storytelling. Body language, you know, that's a whole curriculum in itself. I put a little anecdote around: don't point or bat. Don't do this. Don't bat. Pull is a very quick and easy way to improve your body language in front of an audience. I see so many executives doing this, pointing, you all, haha, we have to do this and we have to do that. It's very bad body language. It puts people off very, very quickly. Pull the audience in, use these kind of movements, keep your palms into your hand. It super significantly improves your executive presence as well. Very quick then, I just wanted to touch on managing the inner critic, confidence. Confidence is a topic that you can work on for years. And sometimes that's very situational. So there may be some situations in that you can be super confident. There may be other situations in that you're not confident. It's only natural. But what can help build confidence is get things like 360-degree feedbacks or ask for a lot of feedback. Oh, I did this presentation. Please give me some open, brutal feedback. You know, where did it work well? Where did it not work well? Getting feedback helps you build confidence, because becoming aware of how people perceive you allows you to understand how you are going to be perceived, and therefore get comfortable with that. Even if you know you have a natural, like me being loud and excited in my training, at first that knocked my confidence back. But then over time, getting feedback and understanding how I'm impacting the audience, I then became okay with it. I said, look, I'm okay with it now. If they want to move back when I start getting excited, perfectly fine, right? I've become okay with it. It helps build confidence. So get feedback is a really good way of building confidence quickly. You can often use a coach as well, which is really helpful if there's somebody you trust, and you can really get them to help you with that feedback and building that. The other one then is the inner critic, you know, reflecting on your feelings. Why are you feeling uncomfortable? If you can pinpoint it and then say, okay, if that's why I'm feeling uncomfortable, what are the one or two things I can do to help myself overcome that discomfort, right? And then the questions in 5 here, and I'll send you the material, of course, are really, really helpful. So what do you want to accomplish? What do people want from me? What do I want from you? What might go wrong? Thinking that situation through. And how do you make yourself feel safe in that situation? That kind of thing. So in really big conferences, I always nervous, of course, and that's only natural to feel nervous. If you know at least one person in the audience, in advance of the big presentation, you can actually go up to them and say, look, I need a safe person in the audience that I can go to, that I can look at, that, you know, if I'm getting stuck on a topic, I can turn around to and just ask for feedback in the live presentation. Will you be my safe person? And often people go, yeah, sure, I'll be your safe person. And that can even be just to, in a moment of nervousness, just look at and focus on. And you can say, look, if I look at you, can you do just one thing for me? Can you smile and kind of nod back at me? And that can work fantastically to overcome nerves in front of a large audience. Just having one person that you've asked, hey, if I look at you, can you just smile and nod back at me? Works fantastically.
Then if they don't smile and nod, then you know you've really messed up.
Yeah, exactly. If they're going, if they're pulling the hand across the neck, then you know you've really gone bad. But usually having a safe person in the audience is really very useful. And you can also call out to them and say, hey, Bob, what do you think? These kind of things, or ask, if you've got a Q&A session at the end of any presentation, often, there's a time for questions and answers at the end of a big presentation like that. They can be your first go-to person to ask a question, right, as well, which gets then the questions flowing, and there's not that very horrible silence when you go, any questions, and then everybody's silent for like 60 seconds. It's like, oh, it's not so good, right? So those were just a few very quick hints, tips, things that you can really use, and they're the basic skills that are fundamental to all of the people that you put on your list. Obama started with that. Oprah started with that. Steve Jobs and Bill Gates definitely started with that, as did Nelson Mandela. So they all started with those core skills. They continue to work on those skills throughout their careers. Good. Any questions then before we wrap up? And now we have that horrible silence where nobody speaks up.
Well, it's not necessarily a question, but maybe like something to add. For me, like the biggest thing for confidence, I have a friend, for example, who was completely afraid to speak to women. Like he was just really sad about that. So basically, my plan was just this: embarrass him to the point that he no longer knows what shame is, and then now he can talk to women. He's quite happy to. I don't know, like, but for me, it's something that worked as well, just in general in work and everything. Like, if you embarrass yourself enough, you forget what it feels like to feel embarrassed, and then you suddenly don't really care what other people think, and it makes you so much more confident and comfortable to speak in front of people.
Yeah, there's an element of that for sure. It comes back to, if you ask the question, what's the worst that can happen, right? And if you then get comfortable with what's the worst that can happen, then confidence goes up dramatically. Absolutely. Sarah, you're about.
Yeah, I said
that. I'm thinking about Jamie's trauma plus trauma equals no trauma. For me personally, I don't think I had like I think like the debate, or how do you call those classes, are really helpful. And for me, going to acting classes was, I think, the most helpful for any type of public speaking or giving a presentation or holding that presence. So you really do have to free yourself in a number of ways and get rid of the fears. I mean, embarrassing yourself enough might be one of them.
Yeah.
But I think it's something, deeper to work on, because you can't fake it, because people will see if you are faking it too much. I mean, people detect everything, especially like live audiences and things. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, acting classes definitely help, and Toastmasters is the global kind of presentation club. You can join Toastmasters. Very early on, I did some Toastmasters ones where I was challenged to, do presentations on things like genetics and these kind of things, which I had no clue on. But you were given 5 minutes to come up with a presentation on genetics, and still stand there and confidently speak about genetics, right? And it's not necessarily about the content of the communication is not the key. It really comes back to those skills of being open, connecting, the passion behind it, and listening to how your audience is reacting. Absolutely.
My first issue was when we did some debates, and then you get a subject that you completely don't agree on, but you have to defend it to the other team, which is actually defending the point that you agree on. but you got this other one, and then coming up with different arguments and things you need to believe in order to defend that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very good. We're at time, so we'll jump off. I wanted to ask, and I'll send you a little note afterwards then, for next week, as I know people are already starting to go on vacation the week after. We have 2 more sessions left. We have hackathons, which, Jamie, I know you'd be good on hackathons, and then the coaching element around this Connected 5 series of topics. It would be great, therefore, if we can find time next week to do the two sessions. So I'll send out kind of like a doodle poll, and we'll see if we can find a good time for everybody. A couple of hours in next week, then when we can wrap up all of the sessions, if that makes sense for you all.
Yep, sure, cool.
It does make sense, although next week for me might be difficult because I'll be going to Ghana. I mean, if all the flights go.
You might get into Ghana. It's getting out of Ghana that might be difficult, right?
I'm already planning on potentially being stranded in Ghana for Christmas.
Very good. Well, I'll send you a little poll, and then we can see if we can find a few slots that work for everybody.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Very good. Then have a wonderful rest of the week, and have a very safe trip out to Ghana.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers, Matt.
Bye. Cheers.
Bye.